Hi guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at a publication that comes with a free model kit, a 1/72nd scale World War II tank, and the publication is called The World at War. It's a thin magazine which is documenting the Second World War 39 to 45, as you can see on there, and it comes with a plastic model kit, so I'm going to pop them out of the bag that they're in, and we'll take a look first of all at the magazine. It's a thin magazine, as you can see, and it contains information on this particular tank, or the Panzerkampfwagen III Ausf A, the A variant of the PZKPFW III, and it gives quite a lot of in-depth detail about the vehicle, the construction, the history, the armament, and it really goes into quite a bit of detail. Now it's a multilingual one. It's British and German inside, and the English reads a little bit rough in places. The translation's a bit rough. Not so bad that you cannot make head nor tail of it. It's clear enough, but some of the translations are definitely off. And I don't know whether it was originally translated from German, which has led to this, or if it was perhaps translated from Polish into German and English, because the company that makes the model kit are IBG Models, who are a Polish company. I've never heard of them, interestingly enough, so it'll be quite interesting to see what the other kits they come out with will be. So in the magazine, it gives you the contents and layout and a potted history from development, creation and onwards of the tank, with some nice reference photos, some technical data with a floor plan diagram, some information about the armament used on the tank, the drivetrain and track system, the turret, etc., and electrical installation, additional equipment, optical equipment and what have you. I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but it does cover it in depth, and it's quite an interesting read, even to the radio equipment and painting and labelling or decals, which would be on the kit. And then the kit instructions, quite cleverly, they've put in the magazine rather than as separate instructions in the box, which means that these really do need to be bundled together. Now the whole thing is just under £10 in total. Oh, there's a couple of little bios of a couple of tank commanders at the back there, which is quite interesting as well. And then some advertising on the very back cover. The whole thing is just under £10, which is really a good price. It's quite a bargain, considering that you can easily pay £10 or more for a 72nd scale model tank, which is your typical sort of gaming, tabletop gaming style, 1/100th and 1/72nd being common tabletop gaming sizes. And the detail of the kit, which we'll see in a moment, is really quite good and certainly worth the asking price of the magazine and kit combination. So at this point we're going to open the box and take a look at the contents. It's a thin cardboard box with a Revell type flip top end, and we've got a small decal sheet, and inside the plastic bag we have what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sprues in total, 2 large ones, 3 small ones. So what I'm going to do is scoot in close and we'll have a detailed look at the sprues. Now it's apparent when you take a look at the sprues that they could in fact have been easily fitted onto 3 sprues of the large sprue size, possibly even 2 at a real squeeze, but regardless, it's quite nice to see that putting them, quite possibly putting them on the separate sprues as they have, has allowed maybe a bit more detail than you'd expect, and I've got to be honest, the detail on this is really quite impressive for the very small scale of it. I've seen 35th scale tank kits with less detail, admittedly older ones, very poor quality ones, but still it's nice to see a small scale kit with good quality. So we've got the jack and what looks like a fuel filler, maybe a headlight, I think that's a headlight, and then possibly filler caps up here. I'm not entirely sure, just off the top of my head. But we've got a single sprue there with the base of the turret, and then the third small sprue contains the upper portion of the turret with the machine gun for the front glasses plate mantlet and the turret gun up here. And hopefully you'll be able to see on the video the nice detail that we've got. If I move the turret around so that kind of catches the light and the reflections a bit, you can see we've even got small, very small moulded rivet detail on the top of the turret, which is really, really nice to see, and very nice hatches moulded into the side there, which would pick up an oil wash well to show detail. So that's very impressive. On the slightly smaller of the large sprues, we've got the tracks for the left and right hand side, which are moulded as one piece. Now, people who make the 1/100th scales Vesda type tabletop ones and the plastic model Soldier 72nd scale tabletop tanks will be familiar with this type of track system where the tracks and the road wheels are all moulded in one. And while they tend to lack a bit of accuracy compared to the larger scale ones with separate tracks, they do look very convincing once painted up and fitted. Where they tend to lose compared to the separate tracks is in the track detail on the top and bottom, because of the way that they're moulded. I guess there's a limitation to how they can mould the tracks, and obviously it's got to slide out of the mould, so they can't really go into intricate sort of waffle detail and that kind of thing as you would find on, say, a T34 track. So that's a little unfortunate, but again, once it's all sort of weathered and painted up and weathered and what have you, it can look quite convincing for the scale, I think. So we've got a couple of mufflers over here, the turret hatch and a ring for the turret here, part of the mantlet for the cannon. So yeah, all really, really nicely moulded. It looks very, very good. I'm really looking forward to making this. And then on the final sprue, the final large sprue, we've got the Bathtub Chassis, which has, if I can focus on this, which has really nicely moulded suspension detail, surprisingly. So again, this is the kind of thing that will be picked up nicely by an oil wash once everything's painted up. So we've got the suspension springs all moulded in here, which is the kind of thing that you would expect to have been omitted for ease of moulding, really. So it's very impressive for the size of the kit, the detail that they've crammed into it. So looking back down here, we've got a few more components to fit to the upper portion of the hull, which you can see here. And again, the detail moulded into this is very nice. You've got this sort of checker plate, grippy surface on the fenders, and then the moulded hatches, which again will pick up an oil wash detail very nicely. The tools are moulded in place on the right hand rear fender there. As you can see, the shovel and is that a hatchet or some kind of crowbar? I'm not entirely sure, but whatever the standard tools would have been on this are moulded into the rear of that. And then the underside is, well, it's as you'd expect it to be. It's not going to be seen. It's got ejector pin marks and such like, but that won't be visible once this is assembled. So that's really neither here nor there. The little bits that you will be able to see very slightly are reasonable looking. The undersides of the fenders, which don't have any or won't have any visible ejector pin marks once it's assembled onto the bathtub hull. So that's the large sprue, and then, as I say, the smaller sprue, which contains all the turret parts with the nice sort of moulded in rivet detail and what have you. So I think once this has had paint and an oil wash, the detail will pop out very, very nicely on it. The only other thing, as I said, regarding this is the instructions are in the magazine, although to be fair it's a relatively straightforward thing, and I think if you were determined enough you would be able to assemble it without the instructions. We've got quite nice box art on there, and on the side we have a four-way diagram with paint scheme and decal placement, and then likewise on the back of the box we've got a four-way diagram with colour call-outs as well, which gives you colour call-outs for Vallejo and Hataka paints, neither of which I use. Well, I do use some Vallejo, but I don't have many Vallejo paints. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest, so it will be Tamiya paints that I'll be using most likely on this particular build. So there you go, that's the World at War magazine with the free model kit, or depending on which way you want to look at it, the model kit of the Panzerkampfwagen III Ausf A variant with the free magazine. So the next video we'll be looking at cleaning up the sprues and then assembling the kit, and then we'll be looking at painting it up. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and thank you for watching so far, and tune in for the next video.